Hi folks, it is time for some more Hobby Nightmares. It is Friday. Apologies for the lack of hobby rants yesterday. When I've got nothing to rant about, I don't like just making them up. So that's why we didn't have one yesterday. There's nothing to rant about. I'm just, generally just taking care of myself and everybody around me right now, and hopefully you're doing the same with your mental health, and you're not getting any hobby nightmares wherever you are. First of all, let's have a little look-see at our sponsor for the day, and that is, of course, Minimaker, who has these awesome pieces of terrain ready to go for any of your grimdark future settings. Mostly for one-page rules, but these can be used in generally any game that you have there on the tabletop. They are pretty awesome, and they're all there now involved in the offer of there's lots of ways to get 10% off with Minimaker. You can sign up to their newsletter. You can use the promo code Northern Exile to get yourself 10% off at checkout. There are ways to get upwards of 10-20% off your order with Minimaker. All of their products are amazing stuff. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. I love it when I get models that come in the box exactly how they look on the file page, like these, right? I want to use these in OPR. They look exactly as they do on the file page as well. So I love these guys. Anyway, if you want to get some stuff from Minimaker, head on over to the store page and use the promo code Northern Exile to get yourself 10% off at checkout. You also, they do worldwide shipping for just $10. $10 worldwide shipping. Isn't that awesome? I think it is. There you go. Right, moving on. Let's jump into our first Hobby Nightmare of the day. It is Feels Friday, so these will not be overly taxing or trying, so don't worry too much about that. But let's jump in with our first Hobby Nightmare from Evan, and it says, viewer discretion advised, 16 plus. Well, yeah, I mean, I think Hobby Nightmares in general is 16 plus or whatever it is. Anyway, he says, greetings North, it's Evan again. I've titled this one My Hobby Progress in a nod to my second favourite 40k podcast, the 40k Badcast. The last time I wrote in, I covered how I had retaken my life from a bad relationship with the help of my darling Lita. I rescued my dog, Zito, from a bad owner and got started on my own new gaming group, which meets up at my home. My previous nightmare before that was the love rat couple that ruined the D&D campaign, and I made the mistake of continuing it. Lita and I began playing, I guess Lita is the new woman in your life, which is awesome. Lita and I began playing 40k as well as watching each other's favourite movies. I introduced her to the depth of the good Star Wars movies, shows, fan cuts, etc. She showed me some awesome movies like Titan AE and What We Do in the Shadows. Yeah, those are pretty good. Lita has a lovely Tyranid army, which is almost 3,000 points. I've attached some pics of our armies. Mine is now a 16,000 point Imperium army, 6,000 point Varied Chaos, and over 6,000 of kit bashed orcs and grots. Sorry for all the pictures, but it's a very overfull collection. No need to show them all off if you haven't got much time. These are awesome though. I really do want to show these off. So some of these are, look at these Tyranids, man. These look awesome. These look awesome. And Evan, I apologise for not showing your Hobby Nightmares sooner. It's literally, it got buried in a load of other Hobby Nightmares that were coming in. But yeah, these Tyranids look absolutely outstanding. So finally you're getting a bit of time in the sun, which is awesome. You have an Imperium army here. This is massive. That is great. Love your banners too. Love your banners. Awesome, man. Awesome. Excellent stuff. And of course, you've got your Gobbos over here. Your orcs, which is great. There's something so Christmassy and nice about orcs. I don't know, just feel good, factor right in your. I'm gonna put orcs on the thumbnail. That's what I'm gonna do. I think we all need some orcs right now. Everyone loves a bit of orcs, and here's some more orcs as well. Yeah, love them, absolutely love them. And of course, we couldn't leave out the darling dog, Zito. There we go. We're gonna leave Zito on the screen so we can continue with your Hobby Nightmare. All right. I've also attached some of our dog Zito, who is still a very good boy, with good progress being made on shrinking his cataracts down. That's great. Awesome. Lita and I play a lot of Crusade games with a custom Hex map campaign. My friends also come by, use whichever army they like, and they learn the game, which helps keep their entry cost low and keeps our narrative alive. We've been playing with the Tyrannic Warbook all year. That's great, man. The growth of my hobby group has been slow work, but it's all grassroots. My local game store just hasn't been the same since the old owner retired in 2020, so a while ago I decided to just stop playing there. Trying to create that energy at home, being the change I wanted to see in my hobby world. I began to recruit people. My brother, who hadn't seen his family, who I hadn't seen since a family fight at 15. Well, that's great. That's awesome. A new friend, Gabby, who plays D&D, as well as an old friend who always wanted to do 40k, but is busy and broke, supporting his son, so couldn't really afford an army. You should have seen his face when I asked him if he wanted to game of Guard versus Orcs, like old times. Then his face when he won his first game in years, as well as how excited he was when I told him we can play 40k whenever he has the time. Dude, this is great. You're doing awesome work, man. You really are. Getting people into the hobby is awesome. Like you're doing great, and the fact that you're giving an outlet to people, like the look on his face is because he's always disqualified himself from the hobby. I'm telling you. Like, he would have always gone, no, I can't do the hobby because it's too expensive. I can't do the hobby because it's too time-consuming. And then he's got a friend there who all of a sudden says, no, you can do the hobby. Come do it at my house, right? Doesn't cost you anything. Maybe it costs you gas money and some, I don't know, and a cup of tea. I don't know. Anyway, moving on. The next time my brother came over... I recruited my brother when he found me on Instagram, of all places, and he wanted to reconnect, and was amazed to see my overall game room when he got here. So, I asked him which game he wanted to play, and he wanted to play Star Wars Legion, but was more curious about 40k. So I showed him the factions, and he decided he wanted to try 40k instead. So I set up a game of my Orcs versus Black Templars for him to run. He beat me on objective points, which is how an intro game should go in my opinion, so I played like an Orc. The next time my brother came over, I showed him Star Wars Legion, and now he is very interested in both games. Although I did beat him with my Andor list, whoops, as well as D&D once we get to scheduling a night. After that game, we painted his first mini. On his way home, he purchased the Star Wars X-Wing starter set, which we haven't played since I was in school, but we're set to get a game in soon. That's brilliant. That's wonderful. I think, your brother reaching out to you as well just shows that, the hobby is involved, but it wasn't the main thing. Your brother reached out to you and was like, hey dude, let's get together. And 40k provided the glue. You guys are the bricks. 40k provided the cement, which is great. The only one of the lot I haven't quite figured out is Gabby, my new D&D pal. We met in an unconventional way, let's say. Alright. So, Lita is bisexual. Okay. And I've never met a straight man who doesn't like two ladies. Alright. Let's just say we hit the jackpot stumbling upon Abby while scouting a three-way partner locally. She's aces at it, though Lita's really the best. Turns out, Gabby's a big D&D fan and of the same edition as me. What a sweet setup, eh? Now, I'm scratching my head. Do we all roll D&D dice with her, then slip some Celestia shenanigans after the party heads home? Coolest setup ever for a nerdy-ass DM like me. My only worry is, I don't want a bunch of drama to take over, though. You gave good advice on my other nightmare, so how about this possible dream? Well, if you're already doing it, I know a lot of lads who are going to be listening to this are going to be like, "Aww, poor baby." Do you know what I mean? I'm going to be honest with you, this isn't my kind of setup. Like, I'm a one-person man, and I used to have actual nightmares of me cheating on my missus. It would be a nightmare, and I'd wake up like, thank God it wasn't real. You know what I mean? Like, that's how down bad I am, basically. So, yeah, this isn't my kind of thing. But if you want to keep drama away, you're going the wrong way about it, man. If somebody catches feelings, you're in big, big trouble. Or say if Lita gets a little bit like, you're giving a bit more. If you're a DM in a DM group as well, if the minute you give Gabby anything, that's a bit generous. You're going to have to watch what you're doing. You have to be very, very careful here, man. I would, if something seems too good to be true, often it is. And I would be, this is just me, I'd be sidestepping the situation because I've already got a nice woman and I'm happy as I am. But this is me. This is me. And you've probably already done it by now. So if you did already do it and it's blown up in your face or it's going well, let me know in the comment section down below. Or just email me. If you don't want to talk in public, just email me. Our group got Lita's video game and D&D only friend Jay swapping DM duties with me for a short, stylized campaigns. If the shit hits the fan, no biggie. We just toss the mini campaign and charge into the next one with fresh ideas. What do you think? Well, you're already planning for failure, which shows me you already know this is a bad idea. You know what I mean? If you plan for failure, you go, well, if it doesn't work out, we can do this. It already shows me, you know, this is Danger Will Robinson. You shouldn't be doing this. But again, I'd like to know what you think. What happened? You sent me this when? A long time ago. Yeah, June the 2nd. So, yeah, height of summer almost. And I haven't got around to it till now. So that's my shame. Sorry, man. But, yeah, let me know how it went. What's my point in telling the story? You can build the hobby group you want, even if it means looking in wild, unexpected corners. I battled a toxic past to get a kick-ass gaming group, space and girlfriend, and I've learned it takes grit, heart, and a bit of crazy. Reconnecting with family, loaning buddies my ore cord, or snagging players from the weirdest spots. Nita, Zito, and my game group prove that with patience and passion, you can roll the dice and build something absolutely epic. So, make your crew your way, and rage against the dying of the light. Sorry if it ended a bit rambly, I'm not much of a writer. Thanks, North. Alright, cheers, man. Wonderful, wonderful pictures of your models there. I loved every single one of them. And, of course, we're going to leave Doggo on the screen because why would we not leave Doggo on the screen? He's going to be there for the rest of the episode because, you know, my channel, my rules. You send in a pet, they remain on the screen. Everyone needs a comfort dog every once in a while. Everyone look at Zito. If you're having a bad day, look at Zito. Right, Zito looks at you. You are now having a good day. Cool, let's move on. Alright, this next one is from Lisa. She says, hello, Mr. Northern Exile. Hello, Lisa. My name is Lisa. I understand your channel is primarily about bad or funny stories about the hobby, but I thought you might like to have a nicer one too about how the hobby has become a good part of my son's life. I told him I wanted to write into you, and he said he didn't mind. Of course, our names are changed. That's alright, no problem. My son William, he is in his early teenage years, is very much into Warhammer. One afternoon after work, he was painting some of his models and I heard your channel playing from his phone while he painted. Well, good lad. I mean, some of the stories, you know, I like the one I just read out. Do you know what I mean? Some of the stories aren't really for him, but, you know, if he's a mature young lad, I think he'll be alright. Anyway, it was a lovely story from a young lady who was playing a game against her crush and planned on asking him out. Ah, yes, it was Sarah and John. Yes, I remember them. What's that? I asked William. It's Hobby Nightmares, Mum, he said. People write in their real-life nightmares to North and he reads them out. It's really good. Ah, what a chap. What a chap. So I've listened to a few of your episodes doing housework if William has it on. Bits and pieces mostly, but most of them seem quite funny. Yeah, I'm hoping, yeah, depending on which ones you've heard, because some of them over the years have been a bit much for younger listeners. Not that there's anything wrong with being young and listening, but under parental supervision, if you're in the room with him while he's watching it, I guess there's no issue there. My son first learned about Warhammer from a PlayStation game. I think it was called Space Marine. If William is interested in something, he likes to learn about the universe it's set in. When the Hogwarts game came out, he ended up reading all the Harry Potter books, for example. So one day, we were at a shopping centre, and William said he wanted to look at the Warhammer store. I had no idea what that was, but I agreed. When we entered it, certainly it was not like any other store I had been to. Meticulously painted models on display, battle scenes laid out, ruined buildings and themed playmats. I'm showing my age a little here, but it reminded me of Dungeons & Dragons, but on a whole nother level. Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, if this was recently, then this must be either a big store or a store that's had a manager who's been there for a long time, because usually they don't like games and things in stores, but, or depending on where you are in the world, too. William was rattling off details of how you play, most of which I totally missed. What shocked me most were the prices. I'm not sure if it's the same elsewhere, but here in Australia, oh god, here we go, yes. There are additional taxes on anything imported and manufactured. It doesn't affect basic foodstuffs, but it makes entertainment products very pricey. One little model was $70, and from what I can tell you, to play with dozens of these little things, from what I can tell, you needed to play with dozens of these little things. However, it wasn't another screen time entertainment, and he seemed so excited about it. He walked about the store, looking at the boxes and packets and books. The manager was a real gentleman, offering to help, but not being too pushy about it. That's great. That's great. Once we left, I asked William if he wanted to start a Warhammer army. He said yes, but he knew it was very expensive. I told him that was alright, and we could buy things one at a time. As a widow, we have a single income household. My late husband, bless him, was responsible and smart with our finances and left us in a comfortable position. After all the necessary bills are paid, we still have a little left over for small luxuries. We also get a lot of help from my parents and his. We are very fortunate, and they are very considering. Anyway, so we are very fortunate considering, yes. Anyway, the next morning, William bounds over to me in the morning and lets out a torrent of excited sounds about how we can find the same models cheaper at other stores, and some of the rules he can get online, and it won't cost as much as we thought. Still in my pyjamas, and only after a few sips of coffee in, I didn't take in most of what he was saying, I'll be honest. Turns out, there are other hobby stores that sell the Warhammer products up to 20% cheaper. I found this hard to believe at first. Usually, the more middlemen that handle a product, the more expensive it becomes to the consumer. For example, if you go to a direct factory outlet for Puma stuff, it's usually cheaper because you're buying it direct, but it's the opposite for Warhammer. They must have their reasons. I just find it strange. Well, I think Warhammer is so expensive that the only way they can really get other places to carry their product is if they give them a market, a big discount when they buy it in bulk. So if you say you run, Lisa's hobby store, right, and you want to sell Warhammer, you've got to buy that Warhammer from Games Workshop, right? They don't just give it to you. You've got to go and buy it in bulk. And because you buy it in bulk, you get a really big discount, so something like 30% off or whatever it is, 30-40% off, which is great. And then, you sell it on at a discount of what Games Workshop sells it for, but you still make your money, sort of a thing. And that's just how it works. That's how it's always worked. That's how it is. There we go. It is strange. I'm not going to say it isn't. It is quite strange. William said the models were the same and not knockoffs. I said we can get a few things to start him off, so he rushed back to his room to decide what he wanted. Apparently, a first army is a tough decision, and it's not just about their miniatures, Mum, it's about their lore and playstyle. Some factions you need lots of miniatures, and some only need a few. Some can take allies too, and so on and so on. As Casca said, it's all Greek to me. But he was happy and enthusiastic. William does well at school, doesn't cause trouble, and listens to me, and he deserves something nice. After the next school week had finished, William proudly declared to me at the dinner table, Mum, I'm going to collect Adeptus Custodes. I had no idea what that was, so I said, which ones are those again? And proceeded to get a shotgun lesson on the Golden Warriors, the Emperor's own 10,000, even better than Astartes. Guilliman has made them go out on campaigns again. It's a great starter army because you don't need to buy many and they are easy to play. In case you are wondering, yes, I did use the internet to make sure I spelt all of those things correctly. Well done. Do you know what? It's great seeing a mum take an interest in her son's stuff. It's really heartwarming, really cool. William said he took screenshots of their rules from an internet site, Warhapedia I think, and asked if I could print them at work so then we wouldn't need to buy their faction codex for a bit. So we bought him a Combat Patrol box, paints, brushes and glue. He built them and started painting them. Often I had to go to an appointment or do groceries, and William would bring some models and his paints and sit at a Warhammer store or hobby store and paint. I realised I was using the place as a babysitter, but I would not have if William was a troublemaker. I always let William buy something small from the store when I picked him up as a thank you for minding my boy. Yeah, I would be okay with that. Like, if your kid was, well behaved and respectful, and just wanted to be around a store environment, and just wanted to come in and paint, and I wouldn't even expect you to buy anything from my store. I'd just be really happy that you were at my store. You know what I mean? And you were just having fun. It wouldn't bother me at all. I think a lot of Games Workshop managers really enjoy quiet regulars. I did. I really loved quiet regulars. I loved regulars who would just come in, they'd have some fun, they'd do their painting, they'd have a little chat with you, and you didn't feel so lonely if it was like a really dull Wednesday afternoon when you've just opened and things, you know what I mean? Or Thursday afternoon. But Wednesday, Thursday, Friday are generally quite slow. But Thursday nights and Friday nights are quite busy, but the days are quite slow. So it can get a bit lonely, especially if you're getting a lot of training to do and a lot of other things going on. It can be a bit lonely. So having not smaller, but quieter regulars come in and just sit down, have a little chat, about life and things. It's great. It's fun. Eventually, when the models were ready enough for him... Have I skipped ahead here? No, I haven't. Eventually, when the models were ready enough for him, William started looking for games. Facebook groups and the Discord app have seemed to make it easy. Mostly he plays kids around his age, but sometimes there's an adult in there too. Apparently, the adults generally play what William calls full 2,000 point games, and he doesn't have enough models to do that just yet. Overall, there have only been good experiences so far, but since your channel is about the nightmares, I will tell you a few less ideal things that have happened. Nothing to get too excited about though. Just in my limited experience, I have found the more, let's say, cruder characters to be at the actual Warhammer stores themselves, whereas the hobby stores that have a variety of company products have a more normal feel to them, if that makes sense. Yes, I guess it comes and goes, depending on where you are. I do think Games Workshop stores, as I've said before, they give you a slice of life, At a Games Workshop store, you get everybody in the hobby coming to your store, It's a vertical slice, so you can see everybody in the hobby in the one store. A normal hobby store, you're getting multiple games from multiple different disciplines, so you're getting like a more of a smorgasbord of people, you know what I mean? Whereas Games Workshop, these are also people who are wedded to the brand sort of a thing, so there may be people with behavioural problems, maybe people with, not all of them, but there may be, Generally, myself, I never saw much of a difference between the two, I had more time working in the Games Workshop store, but I never really saw, much of a difference. Games Workshop gives you that vertical slice, and you're going to get the best and the worst of everything in that vertical slice. You never know who's going to walk in through the door, basically. Anyway. Let me give you an example, alright? Sorry. Whereas the hobby stores... Okay, let me give you an example. In one of my first forays into a Warhammer store, I let William enter to see if they had a model no other store had. It was an assassin model, I think, and even though it was going to cost me more at Warhammer, William couldn't find it elsewhere. As he scanned the shelves, I looked through a section that was more fantasy-based. I don't know if they were part of the same game William liked. The stuff William showed me seemed to be dystopian and science fiction, but this stuff was almost like a fantasy setting. There was a display of elves that reminded me of the Lord of the Rings Mirkwood elves. I have always loved Lord of the Rings, and yes, I know Warhammer does a Lord of the Rings game. As I was admiring these models, a young man stood next to me. I turned to him. He was looking right at me, but didn't say anything. I thought he may have worked there. Hello, I said. He then gave me a once-over, look up and down and said, "If you give me your number, I'll buy your kid whatever model he's after." Okay, Lisa, that's not a small thing. That's a big thing. That's really bad. That's... You're being way too forgiving here. Like, that's... Don't do that if you're in a Warhammer store with a mother, please. Like, don't proposition them at all. Just talk to them like normal people. Just say, "Hey, how are you doing? Yeah, what are you looking at? What's he looking for? Maybe I can help you find it." Little things like that. That will get you somebody. That'll get you into a conversation a lot more than, give me your number and I'll buy your son a model. It's creepy. It's creepy. Just say, "Hey, is that your lad over there? Yeah, is he causing trouble?" No. I just noticed he's looking for something. What's he looking for? I might be able to find it. I know where things are. Oh, he's this assassin model. Oh, okay, cool. I think it's over there. And hey, here you go, right? And you strike up a conversation that way. And you know what? That the minute the conversation finishes, walk away. You've done your bit. You've done your nice turn for the day. That's it. That's all that needs to happen. If the lady's interested in you, I'm telling you now, she'll let you know. Do you know what I mean? Like, you will know. And if not, get on with your day. You've done your good deed. It's fine. You're all happy. Anyway, obviously, this took me a bit by surprise. Yeah. I would guess this young man was 10 years my junior, but perhaps he looked younger because of his attire and long hair. No thank you, I said. "Oh, okay. If you change your mind, I'll be over here," he replied. Then I watched him walk to a table and continue painting. I saw the manager looking at me from the counter. He had an expression that said, "I'm so sorry about that." I just smiled and nodded. When William reported back to me, they did not have this assassin model and we left. Well, if you asked the manager, he might have had it in back, because not all models are on the shop floor. Mainly because we don't sell them all. You know what I mean? If something isn't selling that well, we'll put it in the back. Like the amount of original, really old Warhammer boxes I had in the back is ridiculous. They were everywhere. Like I was drowning in dwarves. They were everywhere. Anyway, when William reported, okay, I still wear my wedding ring and engagement rings, but perhaps the young man didn't care or didn't see. Either way, it made me chuckle later. After a while, William preferred to go only to the hobby stores, and he had one nearby that was his favourite. He said they felt better to be in. He could play battles there, and the people were often more sociable. Well, the products were cheaper too, so I didn't complain. One afternoon, after groceries, I picked William up from his store. He practically bounded into the car. "You had a nice time?" I asked. "Oh yeah, Mum. There was this guy, Samuel, and he started giving me some tips for playing Custodes, and said when I get close to 2,000 points, I could borrow some stuff to make up the difference. The other guy said I shouldn't paint my minis in these colours, but then Samuel said they look good and..." So, wait, someone told you not to paint your models? I interjected. William told me he was painting his new hoverbike model when someone at the table started giving him a bit of a hard time about his paint scheme. William paints them dark silver and paints the cloth parts a navy blue. The man said that that's not the correct colours for the Adeptus Custodes and not to paint them that way. Is it not the right scheme for the stories or something? But Samuel sort of told this other man off and said William's models looked really good. That's not true. What you said is true, but Adeptus Custodes can be painted in any colour because there are different war hosts of the Adeptus Custodes and each of them have different colours, right? So you'll get Custodes that are meant to protect the dungeons of the Imperial Palace, right? They'll be in a darker colour. There are Custodes who protect the solar system, right? I think they're in black or a dark burgundy, right? They're not all in gold. You get your shield host as well, which are all in gold and things like that. You know, your typical Custodes. But yeah, you can generally paint them whatever colour you want. Games Workshop makes every single army Games Workshop make. They never give you a standard colour and say this is the colour that this army is. Even if you want to collect Ultramarines and paint them red, that's fine. They're not going to care. They're not going to care. They'll just say, "Oh, it's an Ultramarine successor chapter." Great. Do you know what I mean? They want you to buy more models at the end of the day. I think William has taken a bit of a shine to Samuel because Samuel was kind and plays the same faction. "Mum, can you take me to the store this Saturday at opening time? Samuel was playing and he said I can watch while I paint and stuff. Samuel has a full 2,000 points and he plays at a competitive level, so I can learn a lot from when I go to tournaments." I was worried William would bother this other young man, but he insisted Samuel offered and he wouldn't be annoying. Just goes to show, folks. Lads, goes to show. Be kind. Be kind. This is what you get. This is the kind of behaviour you start engendering in lads who are coming into the hobby. You know what I mean? As a parent, I am obviously apprehensive about my young teenage child going to an event filled with adults. These tournaments. It wouldn't be for some time since he doesn't have enough soldiers apparently, and he wants a tank, but Warhammer doesn't sell it, and you can't buy it elsewhere. But Warhammer won't make more of them, and it's super expensive, something like that. Yeah, I think it's Forge World. Their tanks are from Forge World, which is another section of Games Workshop, which is very expensive. And he's probably saying you can't buy it in Australia because it's so expensive. If you're going to a non-Games Workshop event, then look at getting a 3D printed model of whatever he wants. They're much cheaper. It's a really good alternative, and there are hundreds of stores out there that can get you your product to Australia for a pittance of the price of what Games Workshop are charging, and it'll be the same, literally almost. Well, it'll look different, but you, at a glance you'll be like, oh, that's a Custodes whatever, a tank, right? So you look at that online, and then make sure that the tournament he wants to go to allows proxies. And what a proxy is basically when you use a model that looks like something to represent something. So let's say I really prefer Grimdark Futures Space Marines, their version of Space Marines. Then I would buy those. But then I can't play in a 40k tournament because they're not 40k models. Well, if the tournament allows proxies, then I can use those models. So it's always worth checking because most tournaments do allow that. They allow you to use, as long as they look like Space Marines and it's very obvious what they are, what they represent, they will allow it. It'll be fine. You know what I mean? Especially if it's a nice chill tournament. Anyway, something like that. A lot of this hobby goes over the top of my head. William has said I should start playing too. Firstly, between working full-time, doing all the things required for a home and a child, and trying to squeeze in some exercise, there is no way I have the time to learn a complicated rule set and play a 3-hour game. Secondly, I doubt the players want a 30-something-year-old woman in their guy's hobby. Ah, you'd be surprised. You'd be surprised. Like, if you're being approached already, like, yeah, there's a good chance that the lads would very much enjoy you being around their table whilst they're rolling some dice. But your first bit, yeah, I get. The first bit, yeah, absolutely. But it's nice he wants me to play. You can play different sizes of games. So, again, you don't need to play 2,000 points. I know young lads are always obsessed when they're in a hobby with doing the biggest and best thing available in the hobby. Lisa, I don't even play 2,000 points. I don't. I play 1,000 to 1,500. And the best games I played have been around 500 points. A quarter of the size. So I could probably play a game with William right now. I'd pick out a few squads of Space Marines and I'd go and fight as Custodes. You don't need a full army. You could literally go and get Eldar, who are space elves, because you mentioned that you liked elves and things before. You go and get yourself some Eldar. You can play the game Combat Patrol, right? Combat Patrol was brought out because you can fight with 2 Combat Patrol boxes, and that's all you need. It's a really good slimmed-down version of the rules as well, which helps you get into it, and is much simpler, and it gives you the basics of what 40k is without getting lost in the minutiae of different things. Then, when you play more Combat Patrol games, you can start introducing other rules in as you go, and it becomes something you can both do together. So I would look into it. Look into Combat Patrol. You don't need to play 2,000-point games. They're not 3 hours long. A Combat Patrol game is about an hour and a half, if that. So if it's something that you're interested in, but you're worried about time, maybe look into that. Look into Combat Patrol, and maybe get William even involved in picking out your Combat Patrol, what kind of army you'd like, how you want to play the game, that kind of a thing. Anyway, the hobby has had such a positive impact on William. He is out of the house more, he spends less time on video games, and is always happy when he is doing anything hobby-related. I must say, I'm overall impressed with the people in the community too. From what I've seen, everybody has been welcoming and encouraging. Even the man admonishing about the paint choices isn't that bad. I have seen much worse in sporting fields much more often. I guess you have, yeah, in Australia. So thank you to the community. You're a lovely part of my son's life, and have brought happiness into our sometimes very difficult lives. Warm regards, Lisa. Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much. That was an awesome hobby nightmare. And you know what? I was having a pretty of a bad day myself, but you kind of dragged me out of it. So thank you very much. And best of luck. Again, look at Combat Patrol. It's much smaller. And it'd be amazing if you could play a game with your son. But if you can't, then just keep encouraging him. Keep encouraging him. Maybe get one model yourself and paint it with him. You know, you don't have to do all sections of the hobby with your son. You can just get one model, paint it. You know, or whatever. You know, but continue doing what you're doing, and enthusing your son in the hobby. That's brilliant. Fantastic, Lisa. Well done. Right. Those are Hobby Nightmares for this week. Have a wonderful rest of your day. When you're watching this, I will be in Manchester about to watch Disturbed with my lovely other half. So that's going to be awesome. Anyway, I love you a long time. I'll speak to you very, very soon. Have a good one. Bye now.